Hey folks, Robbie Payne with Chrome Unbox coming at you today with a full guide on how to install Ubuntu Linux on your Chromebook. We have here with us the HP Chromebook 13. It's newly here in the office. As part of the review process, we're going to get Ubuntu installed on it, and I wanted to kind of share that process with you. We have an older video on the channel that covers most of this stuff, and while it still technically works, there's a few missing pieces to that whole puzzle, and so wanted to kind of update that video, give a fresh new perspective, especially on a brand new Chromebook, so that you guys can kind of see this thing from start to finish, every piece that you need to get it running, and how to install a few apps once you get Ubuntu running in whatever kind of environment that you like it. So I'm going to try to cover everything that I've figured out and kind of discovered with this process thus far, and so it can kind of get you started in a spot where you can get it installed on your own Chromebook and get some of the apps going on your device that could possibly help fill some of that productivity hole, especially until Android apps show up. So over the next few months, this can help you make the most out of your Chromebook. And so we're going to talk through pretty much everything I can think of when it comes to installing Ubuntu on a Chromebook. So without any further ado, let's get started. Alright guys, so here we are at the lock screen. You don't have to be logged in or anything, but the first thing we need to do is we need to get this device into developer mode. So I'm going to show you how to do that pretty quickly, and we're going to have a lot of cutaways back and forth with this video because there's things that take some time. So the first part is, I'm going to tilt this up just so you can see. So you've got the escape, the refresh, and power. Now on some devices, power key is going to be along the side, that kind of thing. So we're going to hold the escape in the back, or in the refresh key, and just touch power, and you'll see immediately that the device will reboot. And it says please insert recovery. Don't freak out. Just hit Control and D together. Turn OS verification off. Press enter. That's exactly what we want to do. So we're going to hit enter. And this is what we want. Each time you boot up, you're going to see this screen. You can again Control D to skip this. And here you go. Up at the top it says starting in 30 seconds, your system transitioning to developer mode. Local data will be cleared. So again, be sure that you have everything cleared off of here. Anything local stored, you want to make sure and have it either backed up to an SD card or backed up to Google Drive. This should take, I don't know, somewhere between 5 and 10 minutes. Slower machines can take a little bit longer. So we're going to cut away and we'll be back with the next part. Alright guys, we're back, and as soon as you get done with that step, it's going to reboot. If you leave your device sitting still for a little bit, you're going to hear a beep in a second. This is again the same screen that you'll just hit Control D to bypass and move on. I'm going to let it sit here for a second so you can kind of hear that beep. So again, if you hear this, don't freak out. And each machine has a little different sound to it. It'll move on by itself in a second. I'm going to go ahead and hit Control D and move us beyond that. So now you're going to boot back up, basically to stock. So the way it looked when it came out of the box. If you're doing this immediately, then it's going to look the exact same as it did just a minute ago. Let's make sure we're focused in, and goes on the network. So it's completely up to you at this point. If you want to walk yourself through and get everything signed in, then that's fine. The faster your machine is, obviously, the faster a lot of this stuff goes, because now it's going to want to sync up everything that you do, all your bookmarks, all that kind of stuff, all your apps, and that's fine. While it's doing so, the next thing you're going to do is open up Chrome, and you're going to Google install Crouton. You can just Google Crouton as well if you want to, but we're looking for this one right here. So the GitHub, see, it's going to jump around on me a little bit. So we're going to install this. And if you scroll down to the usage section, there's a short link here, and that's going to get you the latest version of Crouton. It's going to put it in your downloads folder, which is exactly where you want it to go. Just save that. It's a very tiny file, and then you can close your browser again. All right, so here's the first step. You're going to hit Control, Alt, and T together. Okay, that's going to bring up your Crush, your Chrome OS developer shell. So the first thing you're going to type, and again, all this stuff is going to be typed up fully on the website. You're going to type shell, and we're going to type sudo sh tilde / and as your stuff's installing, it's just going to keep doing this. Just fair warning. Downloads Crouton. And now we need to talk about targets and releases. So there's multiple releases. At any point, I'm not going to tell you exactly what's available right now, because at any point that can change. The releases can change, the desktop environments can change, all your targets, they'll add more, some of them won't be available anymore. So you really need to read through that page where you got the download. That GitHub has a lot of information about the releases and about the targets. But a quick note on them. So a release is the version of Ubuntu Linux that we're talking about installing. The latest completely stable channel, whatever version of Ubuntu is 14.04, which is referred to as Trusty. That's the one I usually go with. I think if you don't specify, it's going to install 12.04. And so there's a 13 as well, 14, and there's actually 15 and 16 now, but I don't know that those are classified as stable yet. Again, if you're watching this 6 months from now, that could be different. So I advise you to read. If you're not sure, go with Trusty. It works quite well. So we're going to do -R, which is the release. So we're going with Trusty. I'll spell that right. And then -T. So these are targets. The targets are the things, the installables that you're going to add. For me personally, I do 4 every time that I do this install. Your desktop environment, again, those can be many different things. You have Xfce, you have GNOME, you have Unity, which is the basic, kind of the packaged Ubuntu desktop environment. You have KDE. I think that Cinnamon's not supported in this anymore. I don't remember all of them again, and they change. So, but some of the ones that are always there, Unity, Xfce, and GNOME have hung around for a long time. KDE has as well. I go with Xfce just because it's one of the simplest graphical interfaces, and honestly, I just want the interface to get out of the way because I'm doing this so that I can have a few different applications running. So, without further ado, Xfce. I want that. I want Xwi, which Xiwi, and we're putting a comma between each one of these. Xwi is it does a few things. One, it lets you copy and paste between desktops, so from your Chrome OS to your Linux Ubuntu desktop. But it also enables you to actually run Crouton in a window, and we'll talk about that in just a second. But there's an extension that you'll get. You can see in mine, it is right there with the C. It's an extension you get from the web store, and it combined with Xwi will allow you to actually launch Ubuntu just in a window right in Chrome OS, so you never actually have to leave the Chrome OS environment. Xorg is another one I put in there because I'm going to show you after this how you can choose. So you can either choose to run Ubuntu in a parallel environment, so kind of side by side, where you can switch right back and forth live between the two environments, or you can do Xwi where it's in a window. The advantage to going with Xorg is that in Xorg, when you're running it parallel, Ubuntu then has access to your GPU. So any graphic heavy things run a lot better if you do them in Xorg. And I'll show you when you launch it how to choose between the two. And then lastly, I'll go ahead and throw Chrome on here. That way it just installs Chrome. I don't have to go find it. You can also do touch. It's spelled exactly like, if you just do comma touch. No point in doing it on here. There's no touch screen. And even on ones with touch screens, for me, I don't put it on there. I've heard of a few people having issues, I think when they're using Crouton in a window where if they have the touch installed, like it's bringing up the keyboard all the time and all this kind of stuff. So I honestly don't do it, because if you bring it up in a window, obviously the touch input works, because in a window it's technically using Chrome OS's input methods. So touch would work if you ran it in a window. If you run it in Parallels, you're not going to get a touchscreen input. So that's kind of on you to decide. And to steal a little language from the GitHub, Crouts, which is the kind of the install that you're doing each time, they're cheap. You know, they don't take up a lot of room, so you could technically do multiple Crouts if you wanted to, one with touch, one without, and you can name them and all that stuff. And again, if you want to get any more into all this kind of stuff, you can really read and figure this stuff out. I'm trying to get everybody on a spot where they can get started and get working from this. So Xfce, ZWE, Xorg, Chrome, and we're gonna hit enter. You're gonna see a little bit of stuff go here, and then it's just gonna start going. And again, there's a few factors here that will change how quickly this happens. For some people, it's gonna go really quick. Their machines are gonna be faster. Your internet connection matters, but it also matters on kind of how the archives are pulling and getting data and stuff. And so some days it takes forever, some days it takes 5 to 10 minutes. So either way, we're going to cut away and we'll come back. And I wanted to do one quick note while this is still going. You can kind of see the install still going. You're going to see these things unpacking and installing over the course of the few minutes that you're going. I wanted to point out one thing. There are times, and this is kind of a known issue, where all your input methods will cease to work. And we'll check to see our mouse is still working. There are times where that will stop. And so your keyboard, touchscreens, mice, trackpads, all that stuff will stop working. Don't freak out if that happens. Nothing's broken. Let the install finish. And for that, I try to leave this window open and not do anything else while it's going for that reason. Because you want to be able to see when it's done. If for whatever reason it freezes up and you can't do anything at the end, because at the end of this it's going to say specify a username and a password for this install. Don't freak out. Turn the Chromebook off. Turn it back on. You'll get all booted up. You'll open your shell window again, and you'll simply do the start command, which we're going to talk about here in just a minute anyway. And when you do that, it's going to say, hey, we noticed it's not quite finished installing. Do you want to finish? You hit yes. It'll finish up and it'll be fine. So I just wanted to let you guys know that that happens from time to time. It's not a huge deal. Just turn it off. Try to start your install of Ubuntu up, and it will notice that it's not completed. So we're going to cut away again as this finishes up and move on from there. All right, guys. We got finished, and just as I had said, you can see the mouse I'm moving on the trackpad here isn't moving. None of my input keys are working. And so, like I said, it's no big deal. At the bottom there, you see specify username. Can't obviously do that. So I'm just going to hold power down until we fully turn off. How's it going? And we'll see this boot screen again. We're going to Control D right through that. You'll get used to that if you're going to hang out with Crouton on your device, because every time you boot, you see that. But everything boots up just as fast as it normally would, so it's not a huge deal. So we're going to get logged in, and you know, everything works the way you'd expect it to. You're not going to see anything. So before we jump into finishing the install, let's jump over to the web store. Excuse me. And we're going to do Crouton in the window. Should be an extension. Okay, let me figure out what it's called here. Crouton integration, I'm sorry. Well, that is really interesting. Let's just search Crouton and see what we find. I haven't had to look for this extension in some time. I'm wondering if maybe you can't get it there. So let's Google it. We'll find this thing together. So it's taking me back to the GitHub, and if I click here, and for some reason the search just wasn't finding it. So if you do a little bit of Googling, just like pretty much anything else, you could find it. And mine's already added, but you would add it to Chrome, and then that's it. You don't have to do anything else with it. So we'll make sure we have that. Anyway, so now to finish this install, again, we're going to do Control-Alt-T. It's going to bring up our shell. Type shell. And we're going to do sudo, and this is the command to start Xfce. So sudo start Xfce 4. If you installed Unity, it would be sudo start Unity. If you did GNOME, it would be sudo start GNOME, and so on and so forth. You have to put the 4 at the end of Xfce. So when I hit this, it's going to say, hey, we noticed that it's not fully set up. Would you like to finish? Absolutely, I would. So we'll hit yes, and this won't take long at all because it technically is done, but it's checking to make sure everything's there in your install. While it's doing this, I'm not going to cut away because this is pretty short. There is a command, and you can find it again in the GitHub. There's a lot of stuff in there, obviously, that helps you out. There's a command that you can run, like when Chrome OS updates, you do need to update your Crouton. And so you need to have that Crouton file that we have downloaded from the beginning. You need to have it downloaded in your downloads folder, and then you run that same command, sudo sh /downloads/Crouton. It's the same exact thing, except instead of doing targets and release, you're going to type dash I'm getting ready to tell it to you and I'm trying to remember what it is. I just go here while this is going and we'll look it up real fast. Plus, this will help you find it if you need to look for it. So if you scroll down just a little bit, you're going to see really quickly a new version of Crouton came out. Mine is obsolete and sad. So right here, sudo sh downloads Crouton -u, -u, which is update, -n is specifying and you obviously don't type Crouton name. The name of your Crouton, unless you specified it in the install, will be the release. So like if I want to update the Crouton that I've just installed on this video, I would do this command here. So sudo sh downloads Crouton -u -n, and I would type trusty because the release that I installed is trusty. Now I could have named it. So in the install, I could have done a -n and named it whatever I wanted to. I could have named it HP, whatever. It doesn't matter. But I normally only do one Crouton, so I don't really take time to name them. Okay, so we're back here. Specify username. I'm just going to do Robbie, and I'm not going to tell you what my password is. You got to try it again, and then boom. And since I told it to start, so now see these things down here. It says error. Don't freak out about that. Especially the first time, it's going to take a few seconds for that extension to go, and then boom. This looks like we've got it running parallel. If you're doing Xfce, I usually just do default config and then just change from there. For me, I don't like the panel down here, so I go to panel preferences and panel 2. I'm just going to hit minus, remove. I also go to desktop settings and get rid of all these extra folders that are hanging out here. So icons, I don't want that, and I don't want removable drives out here. And then we do. If you can't tell, I've done this on a lot of Chromebooks. Your applications menu is kind of hanging out up here. One thing you need to know, and we're going to talk through here in just a second, is your terminal. You can do a lot of stuff through there, and I'm going to show you how to do it either here. So there's a nice terminal that you can work in right in your Ubuntu. And again, if we hit the full screen button, it'll give us our menu, our title bar up here, and we can just minimize that guy. And at this point, you can close this window. And it's always, every time you close this window, no matter what you've done, it's going to ask you, are you sure you want to leave? It's fine. It's no big deal. And I'm trying to cram everything I've learned about doing this into this video. So forgive me if it's kind of all over the place. So there's a terminal here. We're going to install some stuff. Because the first time I did this, I was like, okay, I got Ubuntu running. How do I actually install the things I want? there's a way to do that. I'm going to show you a couple of the things I need to install. I end up having to use multiple variations, so we're going to talk through each of those. But additionally, if you do that Control-Alt-T again, get here, and you type shell again. If you do sudo enter -croup, oops, help if I could type. This is the exact same as being in your Ubuntu install and being here. So a lot of times what I'll do is as soon as I get done with the install, if my keyboard and stuff doesn't stop working, I'll just enter the croup right here and I'll start doing all my commands. For today we're not going to do that, but just so you know that is available. And there are some additional things. I'm going to leave links in the article to a couple articles that are really well written for Pixel users. If you're doing this on a 2015 Chromebook Pixel, it's just a kind of quick side note. The trackpad is a little weird now you're not going to notice it if you're doing ZWE, so if you're doing it in a window here, you're not really going to notice that much. You will notice it if you jump over to the parallel version, so if you do an Xorg launch of that Crouton, you're going to notice some trackpad weirdness, and so there's a person who put some commands up. Now this is more advanced stuff, so we're going to kind of make you research and do your homework and try that yourself if you want to do that. But I'm going to leave a link to his Google Plus post that says, hey, it's a handful of commands you're going to run in terminal, and then some editing of a text file that can get a little bit hairy from time to time if you're not really precise with it. But if any of you guys try that and need some help, as much as I can, I'll help you. And then I'll link to another one that helps you edit text with Vi, which is kind of confusing, but you can edit text in your terminal, but you need to know the commands and how to get around it. So anyway, I'll leave links to all that kind of stuff in the write-up. We're not going to cover that here in the video. So so in our terminal, there's a few things I want to do. So one is, in order to install PPAs, which are kind of repositories outside the main Ubuntu Linux repositories that have tons and tons of extra additional things. So for me, one of those is Inkscape. If I go to install Inkscape, I'm going to get version 0.0, but there is a 0.91, which has a lot more features and is much better. But I can't get that unless I add the Inkscape repository, so I need to do that. And so that's for me, primarily, that's the reason I have this installed, is for Inkscape. So I'm going to show you how to do a few things in here. So once you open this terminal up, we're going to do apt-get. So that is kind of how you get applications. And if you look for stuff online and it's available this way, it'll say here's the apt-get command, run this, and it's going to install whatever you need. I've got to get software properties. Oops, it's hard to type here. Common. In order to get those PPAs installed, I have to get software properties common installed in here. So again, all this is going to be written out. So sudo apt-get software properties common. It's going to ask me for my password. I'm going to type something wrong here. Oh, install. Sorry. Install. Okay. Most of these don't take very long, so I'm not going to cut away. When I install Inkscape, I might, but we'll see. So yes, I do want to install that. And this is just some basic software stuff that allows me in my terminal to get some things. So now I want to add the Inkscape PPA. So sudo add apt repository Inkscape. Oh, whoops. So it's just basically saying, hey, go get this repository and add this to the things I can update from. It's going to say, sure you want to do this? Add it. Sure. Now I need to apt-get update, and this is just going to update my available repositories, basically saying, okay, we're going to update, make sure we have the newest, latest, greatest version of all these things to choose from. So now that I've added that repository. When I go to install Inkscape now, I'm going to get the latest version versus the one that's in the main repository. So now we're going to do sudo apt-get install Inkscape. Yes. So this will take just a minute. And so this will get Inkscape installed for me. That's kind of how you would go through adding a repository that doesn't exist already. Let me show you what it looks like if you're just installing something that already exists in the repository. So FileZilla is something I use from time to time, FTP client. So we just simply do sudo apt-get install, and then type the name, FileZilla. Oops. And this one's relatively small. Yes, we want to continue. And so this doesn't take too long. So there's adding a repository, using the existing repositories, and then, so that's all there. And I'm going to get apt-get install. This is the other way, Software Center. So this is the Ubuntu Software Center, more like your traditional app store kind of. It also acts as a really good installer, and so if, for instance, if you find an application you want to install and they say, hey, we have an Ubuntu installer, you can download that installer file, and when you double click it in this environment, it will open up Software Center to kind of do that install for you. There's a program I use called Insync, INSYNC. And it is basically a Google Drive client for Ubuntu. And so what I'll normally do is install it on this side so that I can sync up whatever couple folders that I'm currently working out of. And so that allows me to just bounce files back and forth. Now, obviously, both installs share the downloads folder, so you can move files kind of between Ubuntu and Chrome OS Desktop at will with that, but that gets a little cumbersome if you're dealing with quite a few files, if you're moving stuff back up into Google Drive, because I try to store everything in Google Drive, so this allows you to kind of keep that going. So we'll cut away here, because this one does take just a few minutes. Alright, so that one's all finished up. We can kind of close out of the terminal here. And so under our applications, I think it's under system now. Yep, so Software Center's there. And you can see this is a little more friendly way to install things. And if you can find what you need in this and install it that way, hey, go for it. So Kfont is the other one I was telling you about. It's a font viewer / installer. I haven't found a better way to do it in the Ubuntu environment. I'm sure there's a way through terminal to install fonts or some way to do it. I've looked it up and not wanted to spend too much time because this works really well. This program actually takes a little while to install for whatever reason, but that's basically it. Once it's installed, you can view your progress up here. You can see the installed things that you have. So now under graphics you should see Inkscape. Yeah, so I can go in there, and so most of the things you can remove. Some things that you've added you can remove, and I just hit close. If you do that, don't freak out. You're still running. If you look at your extension up here, you see there's an instance of Trusty running. If I click it, boom, we're back in. So clicking that X doesn't actually stop the instance running. So I need to let that finish, but I could show you this while that's running. So that's Xfce running, right? So let's go open a shell up again real fast, and we're going to type shell. Oops, shell. So if I want to run another instance, for instance, of Xfce, so we're going to do sudo dash. It's hard to type around this camera. So dash capital X, and then choose which one you want. So I want Xfce, and then Xfce 4. Oops, sorry, start. Xfce 4. So that's going to say that I want to start it in a window. I'm sorry, I typed that backwards. Sudo start Xfce 4 dash X and then define which Xorg you want to do. So ZWE, we hit that, it's going to open another one. I don't recommend this, especially if you're using any syncing software. And anytime you want to close out one of your installs, you just click up in the corner and click log out. Don't restart, log out, and it'll get you out of that particular one. It might take just a minute to do that. And we'll leave this one. Let's see how our, almost done with this K font. Okay, and it's finished, it looks like. So now we can log out of this one as well. Like I said, I try not to run too many instances over top of one another. I try to exit out of them, keeps things running cleaner. So now if I want to run it side by side, we're going to do shell, same thing, sudo start Xfce 4 dash capital X, and I'm going to do Xorg. So this is actually going to run it parallel. You'll see the whole screen go, and then you're going to launch. Now again, the first time you do this, we're launching in native resolution. Oh, that's interesting. My mouse isn't working. Let's see if my keyboard is. Yep, keyboard's working okay. So there could be some issues, possibly with these new chips. Or, nope. Okay, so the trackpad's not working great. So if you have the HP 13, I remember there being an issue like this on the old HP 14, so it has to do with the type of driver, type of touchpad. So a very light touch with your fingertip doesn't work, but if you lay your finger flat, it actually tracks. There likely will be someone who will come along and give you an update on trackpad. If I find one that works, I obviously will add that. Now if you had a USB mouse plugged in here or something like that, you wouldn't have any issues, but for some reason whatever drivers that run this trackpad, it's not liking them. And so a lot of times this stuff gets patched in an update to your Crouton. So in a few weeks, when Chrome OS updates and you update your Crouton, your Crout, you might actually see it work. But again, you can go in here and we can go adjust display settings and fix that. For me, I work 99.9% of the time in ZWE, and so most of these things don't bother me. And so on a device per device basis, sometimes you're going to run into some issues with trackpads and stuff not working. Like I said, there's some finicky things with the trackpad on the Pixel as well, and so luckily developers will come along usually and help you and fix those kind of things. So that's something to keep in mind if you're on the HP 13 and you're getting ready to run Linux. That fix needs to be found. So anybody in the comments, if you find that, feel free to post a link to the stuff that needs to be done to fix that. Likely, like I said, that fix will come along, and as it does, if it does, I'll update the post on the website, and I'll also update this video as well. But it's the first time I've actually seen that in a long time, where the trackpad just doesn't work the way it's supposed to. Even with the Pixel, the fix on that is not some huge fix. It just, the trackpad would jump around from time to time. But that's pretty much it, guys. So again, Control-Alt-T gets you into shell. You choose with -X ZWE or -X Xorg to choose which environment you want to run into. You've got all the stuff you need now to go through and install Ubuntu on any device. Keep in mind some of the ARM-based Chromebooks. This works, I think, for all of them as far as getting Ubuntu going. But you may run into issue from time to time as far as some of your apps and programs that you want to install in Ubuntu working with ARM, because they're just not compiled to work with that processor. So pretty much with all your Intel devices, you're fine. But ARM devices can be a little cumbersome when it comes to installing apps. So again, hit up the comments, especially on the webpage. I think it'd be a better spot for us to converse about questions or comments that you have. Again, if anybody jumps on that fix for the trackpad on the HP 13, leave that down there, and hopefully if you've come across this video and you have this device, eventually we'll have that answer for you. But for like I said, the vast majority of devices I have not seen that issue for quite some time. So hope you enjoyed this updated installing Ubuntu on a Chromebook video. If you like the video, please give it a thumbs up. Subscribe down below. There's always tons and tons more Chrome OS and Chrome related stuff coming to the channel, so I hope to see you around again soon. Thanks for watching. See ya.